This is Paul Glumaz once again with the LaRouche Political Action Committee. Today is April 10th, 2017, and this is being brought to you by General Welfare Presents. Okay. Now, what's going on right now is that the new paradigm for the human race, for the human species, is on the march. Now, if you've been watching me over some period of time, you would know what I'm talking about. If you had been going to the LaRouche Political Action Committee website, you would know what I'm talking about. If you were involved in any of the ethnic communities and you were from Asia or from Eastern Europe, or any of the Russian or African, for that matter, or even Latin American news outlets, you would know a little bit about what I'm going to be talking about. But if you were in the United States, having to rely on other sources, you would not know that we are entering a new paradigm very rapidly of relations among nations, of cross-cultural dialogues, of efforts being made to settle various conflicts all over the world, because it's necessary to do that in order to carry out the economic policy that is needed for humanity to advance. So what am I talking about? Okay. On Sunday, May 14th, and Monday, May 15th, the summit on the One Belt, One Road is going on in Beijing. 28 heads of state are going to be there. 110 nations will be represented. 1,200 significant people will be there. And this is the discussion on the corridors of development that are being built now, that are being negotiated, that are being that connect Asia to Europe, connect all of that to Africa, and also ultimately to bring the Americas in as well. This is the discussion on the economic future of the human species being done now, being done this weekend, and you're not even hearing about it. And this is going on without the disruption of people freaking out about human rights and climate change and terrorist attacks and religious wars, and this country has got a bad dictator and we shouldn't talk to him, and that country has no government, we shouldn't talk to them. Even North Korea's government is being invited to this conference. This was just announced. Okay, so what is this? 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 Socialism, communism, Chinese imperialism, Russian imperialism. People are so backward because of their reliance on the media that they don't even know that the world is changing. They might as well be living in the Middle Ages, So Columbus came back from the New World and said, well, there's a new world out there. And they go, so what? But nonetheless, this is what's happening. So the new paradigm for human species is now on the march. Okay. Now, in that context, Sergey Lavrov came to the U.S. He's the Russian foreign minister. He met with Tillerson, and then the two of them went and met with Trump. And the upshot of the meeting is that they're establishing a relationship, right? That's what they're saying. They're establishing a relationship. Russia and the United States do not have a relationship. They're establishing a relationship. Under Obama, whatever relationship they had, it collapsed. And it collapsed even further in the recent situation with Trump, Russia won the election for Trump. Russia interfered in our elections. You know, all of this noise in the media and in Congress. No evidence yet. Russia. Putin owns Trump. You know, all of this stuff that's been going on in the media. It's all smoke, and there's no fire. There's no evidence, and so that's why the United States has not had a relationship with Russia. And now the intention is to create a relationship, to actually begin to establish the trust between the Trump administration and the Russian government of Putin, in terms of predictable behavior, right? Understanding each other, understanding the interests of each other, understanding what they're really thinking, as opposed to what they're saying. See, this totally collapsed under Obama. Obama was never straightforward. His entire State Department and Defense Department were never straightforward. They would say one thing and do another. They would lie about their intentions. You know, they would say, "Oh, we're building the ABM system in Eastern Europe to stop possible Iranian nuclear attack on Europe." That's a lie. They're building it to develop a preemptive first strike against Russia. They're not. It's a lie. You can't run a relationship on a basis of a bunch of lies and deceit. So the whole issue right now with Trump and Tillerson and Mattis, who's the defense secretary, who's working closely with Tillerson, is how do you develop mutual respect and trust? Not trust in the sense of I trust you and you trust me, but trust that I know what you mean by what you say. I know what you mean by what you say, and that what you say is what you intend. That's what they mean by trust. And Putin has always operated that way. And if the U.S. is going to have a relationship with Russia, they have to operate that way as well. This is completely lost in our media, in our frenzy, and the complete backstabbing insanity of our culture and of our society. You know, lying, cheating, never saying what you really think, making up things and then using them against people. This kind of thing is you can't run a foreign policy on that. So that's what is going on, and essentially that's what's happening. Gradually, the United States and Russia are setting up a relationship. It doesn't mean they agree. It doesn't mean that they're going to agree on everything, but they're going to isolate those areas of mutual areas where they can work together, and that's what's happening. Okay, and that became evident as a result of what's been said after this meeting which occurred earlier today with Lavrov and Tillerson and Trump. Now, so what you have emerging is a world in which three major powers are talking about how they're going to deal with things. One of them is China, one of them is Russia, and the other is the United States. It's very important. The British Empire is being iced out. They don't have a say. United Kingdom as a nation has a say. France as a nation has a say. Germany as a nation has a say. Italy as a nation has a say. Canada as a nation may have a say. But this imperial system has very little say. The EU has very little say. The EU Parliament has very little say in determining what's going on. It's the discussion between those three nations, which is opening the door for dealing with the Ukraine situation, the North Korea situation, the Middle East situation, and all these other situations. So this is the new paradigm marching forward. Now, you have a new president in Korea, and he has announced that he is willing to meet with Trump, and also, under the right circumstance, to meet with Kim Jong-un, the young guy in North Korea. So you have a different policy coming out of Korea, and then there's the question of the THAAD missile deployment in in South Korea, and it looks like the current new president doesn't really want the THAAD missile deployment there, because it doesn't do anything for South Korea. It does nothing for South Korea. And the THAAD missile deployment only has the ability to use its radars to give a first strike advantage to the United States, and it only intersects missiles at a high altitude, and there ain't going to be no high altitude missiles if there's a war between North and South Korea. It's going to be artillery, and because Seoul is only 30, 40 kilometers away from the military line, there's no missiles that are going to be sent at South Korea. It'll be a blanket artillery barrage that'll wipe out most of the Korean industry and most of the people. So this THAAD deployment doesn't give security to the South Koreans at all. And the new president is also talking about reviving the economic development of North Korea that was going on before it got shut down, and so forth and so on. So all these things are starting to happen. So the new paradigm of win-win development for humanity is starting to march forward. It's marching forward at this time. It's starting to show signs of marching forward. And there's many other instances of this. Bibi Netanyahu, I don't think, of Israel, is not too happy that Trump met with Abbas, the leader of the PLO. And the leader of the PLO is not going to meet with Putin. Erdogan met with Putin, and then is going to go to the conference this weekend, and then after the conference, he's coming to the U.S. to meet with Trump. Erdogan, the president of Turkey. So there's all these discussions going on, and there's all kinds of problems that they're now talking about, resolving the Syrian situation. I mean, it's not clear how all that's going to work, and not everybody has the same interest in everything, but it's moving towards a situation where you could actually work out a solution. The big problem is in the U.S. because, one, the U.S. population is not being told what's really going on outside the United States. We're totally under tightly controlled media. Number two, this is very important, is the issue of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, I'm going to say a few things about the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Okay. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is the preeminent internal state power in the United States, and has been for a long time. Their intervention in 1944 played a key role in preventing Henry Wallace from becoming the vice president, which prevented Henry Wallace from succeeding Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1945 when Franklin Delano Roosevelt died. Instead, we got Harry Truman. J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI controlled the entire witch hunt, anti-communist situation. When it was finally revealed in the early 70s, the FBI was running assassinations, penetrations of all organizations, running agents into the media, agent provocateurs, COINTELPRO they called it. And then there was a huge explosion. There were hearings on the FBI and so forth and so on. But the FBI, okay, is the control mechanism of U.S. politics. If you're a politician and you go up a little bit in the hierarchy of elected officialdom, the two things you realize, you got to watch out for. If you step out of bounds, you get a warning. If you step out of bounds some more, you hear there's an investigation from the FBI. And then if you step out of bounds more, you get attacked in the media. And that attack is coordinated between the FBI and the media. So the media has its people. FBI is coherent with the media. This is the British. This is the British control over the United States. It's through Wall Street, yes, but it's through, institutionally, it's through the FBI and the media. The two work together. Now, I know this personally because the movement of Lyndon LaRouche from approximately 1974 all the way to 1994 was in a war with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Our movement was the subject of assault by COINTELPRO, and then later an all-out assault. I know personally, a lot of our people went to prison in our movement, and the way it works is this: there's an investigation. You are told there's an investigation, right? And then that gives the FBI the legal premise to go and talk to people. So the FBI shows up and they want to talk to you about something, right? And they look for the people that are weak to turn them. And then once they turn somebody, then they go turn some other people. And that's how it works. Okay. You have to understand that. Okay. And we survived it as a movement. Our people went to prison, but nobody turned. I mean, there were other people who turned, but they weren't the ones who went to prison. Those are the ones who dropped out. But the people who they targeted to go to prison and went to prison, they didn't turn. And we still have a movement. We may be the only organization that has survived a full-scale assault, especially from 1984 to 1994. Full-scale assault from the Justice Department being directed by the FBI. Okay, so now, the FBI was at the center of operations covering up the Kennedy assassination. Any coup against the president, any assassination against the president would be centered in the FBI. Donald Trump is facing a coup. The British, in their media and through their intelligence services, have announced that they intend to have a coup against Donald Trump. Obama and his people ran their operation, and the Democratic Party set up the conditions for a coup. The Russia did it. We're investigating. That's the condition for establishing the investigation into to begin to target people. And you have to understand that the advent of the National Security Agency, the NSA, its ability to essentially surveil people, and the ability of the FBI to request the raw data, to some degree gives them the power of blackmail. Now, in the past, when there wasn't an NSA, it was the FBI would set up the special task force and then target trade unions, target African American officials, entrapment, everything you can imagine. This is what the FBI is about. This is what they do. They're not really a law enforcement agency in the strict sense. they use agent provocateurs to create pseudo-terrorist incidents to justify keeping the funding coming. This is the FBI. They are literally the state power governing or securing the boundaries of what is permissible and what is not permissible by leading politicians and leading elected officials. So when Donald Trump is elected and he's showing signs that he is not going to stay within those boundaries, then the FBI issue comes up. Okay. It's not an accident that there's no evidence being said that there is evidence by Rogers of the NSA, Clapper, the former NSA guy, and these others. But it's the FBI which is saying we have a continuing, Director Comey says we have a continuing investigation. Okay. And we're setting up a task force, continuing investigation, right, into the allegations that of Russian involvement in our, right. So all these people go around talking to you about your connections to the Russians and what kind of conversations did you have with so-and-so who was a Russian businessman who has some ties to the Kremlin or something like that. I mean, this creates a climate of fear. Okay, this is what they're doing. This is how it works. And it's always worked that way. So, you all probably know that Trump fired FBI Director Comey. And earlier, Trump had appointed Rod Rosenstein to be the Deputy Attorney General, and he was confirmed in March. And he had significant bipartisan support. Now, Rod Rosenstein had been given the task of examining the situation with the FBI. And he sent a letter out, which you can get, to Trump, which is the basis for the firing of Comey. And that is the behavior of Comey, especially on the emails regarding Hillary Clinton, was had a very negative effect on the morale and on the impartiality of the FBI. In other words, the FBI is being used for political purposes. Well, it always has been used for political purposes, but this is the issue, and that to restore confidence in the FBI. In other words, the loss of respect and confidence in the FBI under Comey. His first decision his first thing that he said that Hillary Clinton would not be prosecuted. Well, it's not his job to prosecute. It's the Justice Department prosecutes, and the fact that he said that the FBI would not prosecute is a mistake. Now, she probably would not have been prosecuted by the Justice Department under Obama, but that wasn't his. That's not a decision for the FBI. Those are just examples of issues involved. So the reason. So now we come to this situation where if Donald Trump is going to function and not be thrown out, he has to deal with the FBI issue, and they're going to have to deal with that, and they're going to have to clean it up. And it's more than just Comey. They're going to have to finally clean that agency up and make it function as an actual agency that is not a politically run agency. It's always been politically run. In other words, take it out of the control of the British. Take it out of the control of Wall Street. Take it out of the control. Better just shut the thing down. But in lieu of that, you take it out of the control. And that's very critical. You're not going to get a change in the United States policy As long as elected officials are terrified of the media and the FBI and the collusion of the media and the FBI in being able to target any elected official at any time. That is what controls American politics more than anything else. And that's what keeps America divided. Because if you come out with a policy of unifying the United States around a policy, you get attacked by the FBI. The FBI is the primary cause of the lack of unity in our political system. Because anyone that does try to do that will be attacked and crushed. And that's the whole point about what's going on with the FBI.